Hello, Oracles. How has everybody been doing this week? My goodness, Tesla has been doing quite well. And we got some word today that looks like we are going to be seeing that factory in Mexico. So, pretty excited about that. Nothing confirmed from Tesla yet. So, apparently, Elon is supposed to be speaking with the president of Mexico today. We do not know what time. So, hopefully, we will have some more information. If you guys happen to see it pop up, information while we're on this live stream, please share it. But otherwise, we will go on. So I'm still waiting for Vin and Jen to show up here. Otherwise, we will get going. Very excited about some things. Let me see. And yeah, so today. Oh, here's Vin. Hey, what's going on, man?
What's up, everyone?
We were just breaking in, discussing some of the Mexico situation that's going on.
What do we got going on?
Well, it's nothing official yet, but more news from the Mexican president saying that they are putting up the factory, and he's supposed to be speaking with Elon today to figure out, just the announcement of it. I guess they're finalizing all of that.
I guess they're gonna go compete in Ford and General Motors territory.
Yeah, I mean, this is basically what we have been seeing Tesla do anyway. They kind of like, hey, this is where the big dogs are. Let's walk right into their house and show them how it's done.
Yeah, would it be so another car factory or?
I mean, that's what it sounds like it's going to be. And just looking at some of what's going on, the proximity to Austin and the fact that Austin is still ramping itself, it makes no sense really to put up a factory that's going to at least do Model Y or the Cybertruck. So if anything, maybe they do the Model 3 there. My thought is, based on the fact that it's going to take them at least a year to build it and then a year to ramp it, we're not seeing probably until 2025 an actual ramp of the vehicles going on. So my guess it's going to be the Gen 3 platform vehicle. Maybe it's the compact car or whatever. But hey, Jen.
Hi.
So yeah, that's my guess is it's going to be probably the Gen 3 platform. We were just discussing Mexico.
Oh, very nice. Good. Because I don't know what's going on with Mexico. Oh, let me turn down my volume.
Whatever happened with Canada?
I'm guessing Canada is. My guess is there was a lot more red tape in Canada. I was guessing that, just between Mexico and Canada, it's probably cheaper labor down in Mexico. It's going to be easier to get things built up down there. Canada is going to have Trudeau, and it's probably going to be more like a Giga Berlin type situation, trying to put one up there. So that was my guess. And it didn't seem like Mexico, sort of like Indonesia and South Korea, are like excited to have Tesla down there. I didn't kind of get that same warm and fuzzy feeling from Canada. So yeah, Jen, to get you up to speed, it looks like nothing official. We're waiting, maybe they're having the conversation now, but Elon's supposed to be meeting with the Mexican president to be discussing the factory down there.
Oh, okay. Because I saw that Farzad put a video out and like the thumbnail said it was official, but you don't know. And I didn't have time to watch it, so.
Yeah, I have. I mean, it's the closest we've seen to official, but I haven't. No official word from Tesla or Elon yet. And normally Elon would have come out and said something about it. So maybe we'll have a tweet pop out while we're on the live stream.
That'd be cool.
But my guess is seeing as they're not going to get to volume production until 2025 with it, I'm guessing it's going to be the Gen 3 platform vehicle, whether it's the Model 3 or a vehicle that hasn't been announced yet. I don't know, but that's my guess. Because it makes no sense to do the Model Y or Cybertruck there. It's way too close to Austin, which is still.
Well, I mean, it does make sense because they have to make a lot of them. I mean, there's been a wait for Model Y ever since it came out, pretty much.
Well, right, but don't forget, Austin is still ramping and has a ton of room to expand to be able to do more of the Model Y if they wanted to. So,
right, but I mean, we're looking for like big EV adoption. At some point, we're going to need another factory.
I get that. My thought is the real push, which is what Elon had said before, which is going to be, the lower priced vehicle, whatever we want to call it, that there is what's going to eclipse everything else combined. So my thought is to hit that number. That's the factory that they're going to start pumping out.
I know everybody keeps saying that it's going to eclipse everything combined, but we already have cheap vehicles and they don't eclipse everything that's combined because in society, people like to show off their car. It's just true. So I don't think that everybody's going to buy the cheap one.
Well,
I mean,
think
I wouldn't be modeling for everyone's going to get the cheapy car.
I thought about that, but then you think about the fact that, like, I don't even know what the model is, but that cheaper BMW that's in the low $30,000 range, people are going to go out and buy that because it's a BMW. So if Tesla, there's a lot of people who can't afford a vehicle that's over $30,000. But if somebody can go out there and buy themselves a $25,000 Tesla, they want a Tesla, they're going to go and get it. And so if Tesla offers that, I think that would be hot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I think they're going to bring, like, the Model 3. I think they're going to bring the price down because I just don't feel like sedans are as popular as they used to be. I think they can bring their costs down. So I don't know. And then, like, smart cars are not that popular. They're cheap.
No, they're not. I thought they were. I thought the smart cars were, but they're not as cheap as I thought they were. They're like 40 to 50 grand.
No, they're not.
Hey, Fa.
No, you're thinking of the Mini. You're thinking of the Mini, I think.
I don't know. I thought I had seen that they were expensive.
What is the 3 and Y ceiling? What's the ceiling on those, do you think?
What do you mean?
What's the most they could sell? What number do you think is the max, realistically, of Model 3s and Ys that there's a market for at the current prices, at least?
No, man, that's a good.
It's going to depend on interest rates for me. It's all about the rates.
Yeah, I agree. The Model 3, I think there's a realistic chance that it does just keep getting cheaper. Could be what Highland's about. Maybe we'll get some news on Investor Day, because after the incentives and everything, and the fuel savings, it's around 30,000 right now. And, you keep improving the production line there, and all of a sudden it's as cheap as a Toyota Camry. And I don't know that you have to get much cheaper.
You got to go to Corolla.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about how Tesla has so much money on the books. And I think what would be a big advantage is if Tesla did what they're doing in Europe and offered really low interest rate loans. Then your ceiling for the price is raised. So not only could they make, they'll make money on their cash. And then, if people default, you go and you repossess the vehicle. And so, I mean, nobody likes to do that, but they're less likely to default on these lower interest loans anyways, because they're more affordable. So, and maybe just only lend to, really highly qualified buyers. I mean, that's terrible, but I mean, they're less likely to default. So then Tesla doesn't have to worry about that as much. So then it doesn't matter if they're lending at 1.5%. Well, if you lend at 1.5%, people are going to pay $80,000 for the vehicle. So there's your margins.
True. And I even saw with mine, because previously my interest rate was 5.99%. Now it's 5.44%. So I mean, 0.5%'s a decent deal. Still high, but it's coming down. And I don't know what they're offering over in Europe right now. Do you guys know what the rates are over there?
I saw an advertisement and it was low. I was like, where are these rates? And then I looked and I was like, oh, this isn't my country. Sorry, I'm in a rolly chair. We're in my office tonight. If you're wondering, what location are we in today?
We're not in your wine bar.
That's way over there. Can you see it?
Oh yeah.
There's the bar.
Well,
that's the foyer.
It's like a quarter-mile walk to get there. You got to earn it.
It's kind of far. Yeah, it's 60 feet.
60 feet, I could walk around my apartment twice.
So I was pouring wine earlier. I was running late, so
that's okay.
I stopped to tweet earlier and it put me late. Sorry.
I was too. I just got back from the gym, just beat you in by about 30 seconds. But I'm looking up Europe here, and it looks like every country, it kind of varies. And then, I mean, as far as the fixed rate is around 3%, but obviously with loans, I'm sure is higher. But the other thing is Tesla's making that off the cash just sitting there right now. So I feel like they'd have to, make the pot a little juicier to start loaning it out, because they're making a good amount of money on the cash just sitting there with the rates where they are right now.
That's true. The risk-free rate is really enticing. So that is a very good point. If they have any demand issues in the future and they feel like oh, the margins are getting too tight. It is a demand lever that they can pull that other automakers maybe don't have, because they don't have billions of dollars in the bank.
Yeah, that's true. How about that? They could really, if they really wanted to get crazy, they have another 20% of margins of demand lever to play with. They could sell the cars at cost and make all their money off FSD.
Yeah. I mean, and I wonder if they're going to do something like that when version 11 finally comes out. I wonder if they're going to let that hit the roads, raise the prices on FSD, and then see how people react to it. And then maybe that gives them even more, the better they do with FSD, you realize that the better they have for demand levers, because if FSD gets better, that means that people will be willing to pay more for FSD, which means that they have more room to wiggle with the prices of the vehicles. You're brilliant. I mean, it's brilliant. It's totally right. Oh my gosh. And Brian, China auto loans have a legal minimum 20% down, but most banks require 35 to 40%. Wow. That's like buying, that's worse than buying a house.
Yeah.
Well, and in different countries, they have different lending rules for everything. Like buying a house in Germany, you pay like a lot of taxes up front. And this is hearsay. This is one of my friends bought a house in Germany, and she was like, yeah, like a third of the cost is taxes.
Wow.
So imagine like you're buying a house like 300K, and then you have like another 100K in taxes.
Wow.
Aren't taxes so great?
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, taxes are awesome.
Yay, government.
That's like when I looked at my when I looked at my W-2 for last year, and I realized that the government made almost as much as I did. I was like, wow. I was like, I could have really used you guys on the job. Definitely.
Y'all need some rental properties. Need some write-offs.
Well, see, that's how I know I did it right, because for me, I've got a ton of write-offs that are going out for my business, and I don't even have the rental properties yet, but I will. So I've got the write-offs, so that's taken care of there. Plus, I'm already putting in almost as much as I can into retirement plans, my HSA, IRA, and 401k. So, you do that, you live with a less take home, but you'll have a lot more for the future.
Very nice. Well, and you have Elon's favorite write-off, a small one.
What?
Elon's favorite write-off, a little one. He's got the child credit.
Yeah. That's a trick too. And if you guys don't know it, and always check with your accountant about this. But one of the things I always recommend to people is get a side gig. Like, you've got to get a side gig, even if it doesn't make you any money. Who cares? Because the tax write-offs you can get for it are significant. And with your kid, depending on where you're at, you can write off up to like $12,500 for a child, and they can help you like pick up trash around the office or whatever it's going to be for you. You write them off, and then you take that $12,500 out, and you put $6,500 of that into an IRA for them when they're little. And you do that every single year. By the time that kid becomes 30 years old, they've got $1 million in the bank.
Very nice, but not financial advice. We're just saying you could look that stuff up.
Yes, definitely always check
disclaimer.
Yeah. I mean, always check with your accountant on that. And states are different, countries.
But it is such good advice. But I mean, you know how people are.
Yeah. Always got to check and do your own due diligence. But I mean, that's a trick that a lot of people do. And there's so many things. And that's why people are like, oh, how do these people get so much money? How do they do this? How do they do that? It's these business owners. If you understand the system, the people who are extremely wealthy know how the system works, and just use it in your favor. That's it. That literally is the American dream. If you live the American dream and work the system with the way the American dream was built to be, you can actually live the American dream.
It's actually very true. Like, I mean, just look at Jake and I. He is enlisted in the military. I'm a massage therapist. And it's like, well, how did we're not public servants. How did we make millions? I don't know, but it's really just following the tax code pretty much, like I always had a home-based business, and then we owned rental properties. It's just kind of amazing how it works.
Oh yeah. It's like that show with the house hunters or whatever. I'm a butterfly collector. Like, what? And
that's me.
Budget,
I'm a stay-at-home
$9 million. Seriously.
Yeah. I think that's what buying a Tesla is going to come down to for me. Just moved, so I'm in the market for looking for a new accountant. If anybody has a good one, I'm all ears. DM me. But depending on how much I could potentially write off, I don't know. I'll do as much Uber and whatever else I got to do, use it for business purposes. But if not, I'll probably just stick to buying Tesla shares for now. But I know that there's lots you can do there.
One of the things that's what I've been contemplating is, you know, knowing how the YouTube algorithm works. I've got some shorts and stuff. I'm putting content on other platforms, but like even just trying to put out little things on YouTube just screwed up the algorithm for me entirely. So I've got to stick to Tesla related stuff now. But if I got my Tesla, I could put some shorts on there for Tesla. Now I'm going to talk to my accountant next week when I go see him and be like, well, how much of my vehicle could I write off if I'm going to be utilizing it for content creation? You know, I mean, like,
I think if you lease it, you can write off 100% of it for business purposes if the majority of it is used for business, because a lot of people, because you're allowed to use like a business vehicle, a certain percentage for personal use. So if you're not taking like long personal trips with it and everything, if it's really primarily for business, because you're going to be filming. So if you're taking a long trip, but you're filming the trip, that's a business trip.
yeah, I mean, and
Yeah,
there's so many
FSD
little
videos.
hacks. Yeah,
Listen, I wrote off an entire trip to Jamaica because I got a massage legally, because I'm a massage therapist. Okay.
Yeah.
So when I travel, and if it's 7 days or less, and I go and I get a massage, tour spa, this, that, and the other, and it's the kind of massage that you have to go there to get, it's legal. That's how that works.
Yeah, and then there's other things too. Like when I went out to San Diego last year to visit my family, brought my son along, so I couldn't write him off. But the part of my trip is, if you're going to be spending 20 hours of per week of your vacation doing work, your trip now becomes a business trip. And so for me, I was hiking, recording, doing all the stuff on my channel, and I was responding to all the comments. So more than 20 hours during the week I was working, so I was able to write off my trip. And
I mean, think about it. You don't have quiet enjoyment of the vehicle. Like you don't have your privacy and stuff if you're just recording your whole trip. So I don't know. But anyways, taxes another time, because I'll go on forever about taxes. So what's our next topic?
Jen, that was an interesting Twitter space last night. I hopped in for a little while there, all about, I guess it's more SpaceX actually, of all the 3D printing for houses and stuff.
Very yes.
Oh,
did you see did the video ever get posted in the comments?
Was it of the guy who went to the 3D printed house or something else?
Yeah. Well, there was somebody that went to a 3D printed house. It was gorgeous. It was a beautiful 3D printed house. So I'll make sure to I'll make sure to post the video on my Twitter so everybody can see it. And but it's really cool. It's a 9-minute video. The houses are amazing looking though. I was like, I would totally live in one of those. And if you think about it, the Boring Company, they were making the boring bricks. And so they can make like a concrete. They're going to have to do something with all the dirt that they pull out of these tunnels. So, what better than to just make this concrete that you just 3D print, because those 3D printers use concrete. I was like, this is genius. So I'm very excited. And they already made a couple of them in Austin. There's 4 luxury townhomes that have already sold. And then they did some other smaller casitas. So I don't know.
You just think about, the housing industry. It's definitely ripe for disruption and needs some innovation. I mean, just going back to what we said earlier, whether it's the taxes, whether it's the lack of affordable housing, I mean, it doesn't have to be like this. And I'm sure that we'll start to see innovations. There'll definitely be a market there. Maybe Tesla or SpaceX could capitalize on.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, definitely. Or all of them like partnering together, would be really great. And
Mars.
Elon like disrupts so many businesses. Like he's the one that's going to do it. He's the one that's going to bring up. I mean, he brought us free speech. He's going to electrify the world and give us free energy at some point. I mean, I do believe that's probably his ultimate goal. And I think he is going to give us affordable housing, which would be fantastic. I mean, I would really love that, because if we're at that point and, where we don't need landlords and housing and everything, then everybody does have enough. Then I don't need to play the tax game. Like that's all gone,
Yeah, I'm waiting for the Boring Company to have a tunneler that will just go in there and spitting out houses on the backside of it. Like, hey, here's your tiny home.
Whew, that'd be interesting. That would be interesting.
In, house out.
Well, and it'll probably be something like, well, we're going to put tunnels under the houses, and that's how we're going to make the houses affordable, because you're going to have to sign over your rights, because the way that land is owned in America is you own everything under it, everything above it to a certain point, because then there's like airspace and everything. But you own the mineral rights, typically the water rights. If you border water, riparian rights, which just means the use of right away of the water. So I think a lot of that has to change. We had an issue with the railroad coming through Virginia, so they're trying to do a high-speed rail. And we have a couple of towns that did not want the high-speed rail, and so they really fought it. So it's like all the counties agreed to it, and then we had one town that was like, we're not doing it. And they like held strong. They were like, there's no way we're doing it. So now it's like high speed till you get to that town. Then they got to slow it down. It's like different tracks. You need different equipment. It's insanity. And then it goes back to high speed again. But it's like negates the entire thing.
Right.
Everybody has to agree. So fundamentally, some of our laws would have to change. And I don't know, people like me who like a lot of personal liberties are not going to like some of the things that probably would have to happen.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and then
but
we've got
I think the
here,
tunnels are a good idea.
Raymond, did anybody watch the Cyberlander, a mobile home mounted the Cybertruck? Yes, that's one of the first things that draw me to the Cybertruck, because if I want to live in it, it's not as easy to live in it as it would be like a Cyber van. But for camping purposes, that Cyberlander is awesome.
Did somebody make the
Tim.
prototype? I've only seen like the drawings.
I've seen the pictures of it. I don't know if there's an actual prototype of it yet.
Did you put in a pre-order for the Cybertruck?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I might have to. Maybe that'll be good motivation, because if I put one in now, I'm sure I won't get it for at least 4 years, and I'll save up the money in the meantime.
Oh yeah, I think I'm like 1.4 million on the list, and so I'm guessing 2026 is when I'll see mine.
I think I'm under 500,000, but not by, it's like in the 400,000s.
Oh, you got early.
Oh yeah.
Somewhat. I mean, I'm sure like Warren's ahead of me. He's probably like number 10. He's like, I ordered immediately. I'm like, that's cool. That's awesome.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, I'll get mine like 2026.
And some of those people that are early on, they have like 5 to 10 reservations for them. It's ridiculous.
I know.
That's one of the things that I'm trying to figure out is, are they actually going to keep them? Because realistically, they might buy them and then sell them themselves. So I'm trying to figure out if they're going to keep those, or if we're going to see a lot of cancellations. Maybe they're going to come out with some trims that people don't want. Maybe, they were going with single motors, which they're not going to make, so they're going to not get them. Maybe the price will be too high. So I'm wondering if, I'm really curious once they come out with the ordering page, what we're going to see for cancellations, if any, for people who are like, yeah, I don't need 10 of them. I'm going to take 1 or 2 and stick with that.
Well, I think a lot of people were, it was speculative for the robotaxi. So I think they're going to wait and see what's going on with FSD. And then, Turo is kind of picking up. I see more and more people Turoing their vehicles. So, you can rent a truck from Home Depot for $20 an hour. So I don't know. I could see people Turoing a Cybertruck, but you would pay a premium, of course.
Oh, yeah. And then we've got Mullet Shizzle here. He's 2.5 million on the list from reserving last year. So I reserved mine in December of 2020. So... Wow. So that means that you've gotten basically double the orders in the last year and a half. That's dang. Yeah,
I mean, it's $100 to reserve
$60K
it.
in a pre-order.
That sounds right. Have you ever priced those truck campers? They're crazy expensive.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so I figured. I figured it was going to be basically double the price. So if you buy the Cybertruck for $60,000, it was going to be $60 for the Cyberlander.
Yeah, but the truck campers are cool though. I mean, there's some really cool ones, like Arctic Fox makes them, and
oh yeah,
they're like 4-season. The Canadians know. They take them like hunting. They'll drive their truck like out into the woods, and it's a whole house just mounted on your truck.
Oh yeah, and that's why I want the van. Like I've got a friend right now, and she just decided she was tired of her job, and she actually does work for a real estate agent, doing all the some side work for her. And she's gotten her van. She got herself a van, her 2 dogs, and they just drove off. And that was it. And she's now in Arizona. She's going up the whole entire West Coast. I'm like, dang it. Like, you're living my life.
I know. That's kind of what I want to do. I don't know. I like the room that we have in the big camper, but I love the little one, the little drivable ones. And that's what we had as a kid. We had like a little Winnebago. So tempting. But, the smaller you go, the more expensive they are. It doesn't really make sense, but...
Yeah, I know. Well, that's all right.
It's nuts. I would love to see Tesla do them though. So, with all those RVs, they're all built on the F 450 chassis, I think,
Yeah.
the Econoline van chassis,
Yep.
the Sprinter
Sprinter.
van.
Yep.
All the premium ones are done on the Sprinter van chassis. So there's a lot of the higher end, like kind of larger vehicles like that are used for chassis. So it'd be nice if Tesla, I don't know how they're going to do that since they're like kind of stamping the vehicles. I don't see how you would do that.
So I remember Elon last year had mentioned, just a quick tweet, and he's like, "Hey, how would you feel about a highly customizable Cybervan?" And so
Mhm.
he teased that, and then Franz coming out saying that, the vehicle he's most excited about hasn't even been announced yet.
Mhm.
And coming from a designer's perspective, a highly customizable Cybervan to me would be probably his dream. So I'm
Mhm.
guessing that Cybervan is going to be coming out. And as soon as it is, I'm jumping on board. I want to be like top 100 on the list for those things because that
I'll
is my
order
plan.
it immediately.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be like, we're selling the house. I don't care. But
Oh, yeah. And I know
well,
people have
have
been
you
talking
seen the
about,
prices on the Atlas? It's the Airstream Atlas.
oh, yeah, I saw you post
Pre-pandemic,
that.
it was 250. I don't know what they are now, but they're not cheap. Probably about 300 maybe.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Those
that would be their competition. That's really expensive. So there's huge margins in RVs because they're hand built. I don't know if everybody knows this. All the RVs are handmade. There's
yeah.
no real factories. So if anything needs to be disrupted, it's the RV space.
Well, so, and I think that what they're going to do is they'll do the Cybervan, which will be like a Sprinter van, and it could be a utility van. It could be very versatile for what they're going to do. You could probably see a range in pricing of that van from like 45, 50 grand up to 2 to 300 grand, depending on what you want to do with it. So that would be my guess. And then I've also seen people, obviously, the pictures that we've seen of an RV on the semi truck chassis. And I'm like,
Mhm.
that's beautiful. So now that would be the higher end. That would be like your 3, 4, $500,000 RV right there for sure.
Yeah, and you can do that now. So even with their semi the way it is, you could do that now. There's I know of two companies. I can't remember their names though, but I could find them. There are these custom companies that you can just bring them a Freightliner and they'll just custom build the whole thing for you. Freightliners are a lot easier to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, I'm super excited. That is my plan. And and my kid's like, so what are you going to do? And I was like, well, wherever you go to college, I'll be able to visit you whenever I want. And that's the plan.
Stay
Mhm.
for free.
Yeah. Well, and I thought about it, trying, I was like, hey, do I just buy real estate wherever he's going to go so that this way we can do an in-state thing? But I think you have to own, depending on the state, I think you have to live there for a year or two. So I'm like, maybe it's worth it, maybe not, we'll see. But trying to buy real estate by a college is almost impossible. And the price is ridiculous because it's such high value for rent.
Well, but so okay, if it's high value for rent, then you want to look at a DSCR loan, which is a DSCR, debt service credit ratio loan. Okay, so you qualify based on the rents that the property would bring in. So if the rents are high, then your income will seem high and you'll qualify for the loan. And then you take on the loan as like business debt. So you can buy the property as an LLC. You don't have to take the debt in your own
Yeah.
name. It won't count against you as one of your 10 mortgages. So by the way, if everybody doesn't know this, you can only have 10 mortgages in your name. There's a limit. And so that won't count against you. You typically need at least 15% down, but there are many ways to skin that down payment cat. But that is the route I would go. Then you don't even have to show income.
Oh, that's nice. I mean, all of my rentals are going to be LLCs anyway, but I would still buy them under my name and then convert them to an LLC.
You
But if I
can't
just,
do that.
you can't?
No. So a
Oh.
mortgage, when you pull a mortgage in your name,
Mm-hmm.
there is a clause that is a duet sale clause. So when you take a property out of your name and you put it into another entity's possession, another entity's name, that's a sale. That mortgage is due upon that sale, and they will call your note.
That is good to know. I did not know that because that is not anything I was informed of. So thank you. I appreciate that heads up.
My pleasure.
And we got Brandon here. Winnebago came out with an electric van RV based on a Ford chassis, but the range is only 108 miles. No one's going to buy that. Yeah. Let me go cross country with that and stop every other minute to friggin' charge my vehicle.
Right, because 108 miles functionally is going to be what, 70?
Right.
80 maybe. I don't know. And like you're going to pack it. You have to put stuff in it. Is that dry weight? Is that with water? And because you got to put like water in your tanks. Water's heavy.
Yeah, water.
Clothes,
if you got propane or gas or whatever you've got.
Half the reason we have a camper is because I packed too much to fit in my SUV. We had to upgrade.
Oh, yeah. And then as Raymond says here, the Cybertruck's got the 500 miles on the semi. So that makes perfect sense to put it on there so that you can get yourself 400 to 500 miles of range. Perfect. So I also read.
What do you guys think we'll get out of I was just going to say Investor Day, but go ahead.
Oh, well, we can go to Investor Day first. Let's dive into that. So, yeah, what do you think we're going to be getting?
I mean, we got Investor Day and Master Plan Part 3. I'm excited. I think this is going to be their biggest event yet. We're going to get some crazy unveilings, I think.
Oh, yeah. I think we're going to see, and the way Elon, I think, teased it a little bit it's going to be bigger than Tesla. I think they're going to be speaking about so many things even outside of Tesla. When it comes to Master Plan Part 3, scaling, everything is going to be energy. I think it's going to be so big and long-term that it will go over Wall Street's head. So it might end up being a sell the news situation just because it's going to be so big. And this is going to be like hey, here's our 10 to 15 year plan. And Wall Street's like, well, that's great, but what are you going to do for us next year? So, I'm sure the Gen 3 platform stuff, if they talk about cutting costs for production, a new manufacturing process, that could be huge. And I think that might be what we hear for the Gen 3 platform or Project Highland. And what do you guys think about, and I've been toying with it too, do you think Project Highland and the Gen 3 platform are one and the same or separate entirely?
Do you think that Project Highland,
I think
has he said it's a car? Could it be the house? Could it be Highland? I don't like. I don't. Why not?
I think Project Highland is all about making possibly like 2 cars for the price of one. What it costs them to make one Model 3 right now. So maybe that's where we would get the cheaper variant from, or just keep driving down the cost of the Model 3. That's what I assumed. And then the hardware, the new hardware, maybe it'll be something different, or the new model.
I don't know. I mean, I don't remember Elon saying it's a car. I know a lot of people have speculated that it's a car, but if they're 3D printing houses in Austin and that company's next project is 100 houses, and then Elon's doing a project that's 100 houses, and we know he has said that he's going to do a home HVAC. And we know that they have this housing crunch. So we kind of talked about it a little bit in the space last night, but I've been checking out Austin for a friend, and he has a very sizable, like very healthy budget. Okay. So the budget's 1.5 to 2.5 million. That's a healthy budget for real estate, and not in Austin. Oh my God, I was shocked. I don't know if anybody's looked at Austin. It's probably the hottest market in America.
I have looked down there, and it's ridiculous.
Whoa. I was like, what happened here? What the hell happened?
And I'm so mad at myself. So in 2018, people were like, it's going to be the next Silicon Valley. And I'm like, okay, we'll see. And sure enough, here it is.
Yeah. I was like, oh God, I should have sold everything and bought Austin. What the F happened here? So anyway, so if Elon's going to hire all these people and he's not going to pay them all $500,000 a year, he has to build homes for them. There's no other way.
So I wonder then, and I don't even know if this is going to be part of what we hear about at Investor Day, but
oh, absolutely. If he's building houses, he's going to tell you about it because that's Elon's personality. If he's doing something, you're going to hear it.
Oh yeah, but I'm thinking if we have a whole housing and he's going to end up doing the whole college thing, so he creates the college, builds the houses for all the students at the college, builds the whole community for his places. Think about when we went through the Industrial Revolution here in New England. We've got whole entire communities, like the town I'm in. There was just row housing that was built up for people who worked in the factories that were here. So it would make sense for them to basically do the same thing there. Put solar roofs on all of them. they can create that whole entire ecosystem with megapacks and just say, hey, look, we've built a community that is completely disconnected from the entire infrastructure system you've got right now. It's possible. You guys can do this, and look at how much money we're saving doing it.
Yeah. So I think that Project Highland is the community, and it's going to be the sample community for like, look at what we can do. We've solved all the power problems. We've solved the housing problem. We've solved all the effing problems, and we can make these communities. And they're going to disrupt H.H. Hunt and Ryan Homes and all the builders, and then also like Honeywell and all of the American Standard and all of those companies that make the HVAC, units, and Renai that does the tankless hot water heaters and all of that stuff. I think they're just going to do like a whole house system.
Huh. And it's funny, my son's stepdad works for Honeywell, and he's going with us tomorrow to go see the college. I'll pick his brain about some of that stuff too. Just because he's high up there, so he could tell me some of that information. And for me, like, I know, like, I was talking to Alexandra, and like the Gen 3 platform, I think it's just going to be the platform that they put the vehicles on, and is going to be adaptable to other vehicles. So it's literally going to be like a Matchbox car where you can just take, hey, here's the platform, boop, pop whatever top you want on it, and you're done.
Oh, yeah.
And did you guys watch the video from Connecting the Dots about Project Highland?
Mm-mm.
Highly, highly recommend that. Breaks down because of Elon's affinity for Ford and the manufacturing process, and how they went through with Highland Park. Almost a direct tie between the two. So,
Okay.
not to say that, they're not going to get into the houses. I think that's going to be it. But I think Project Highland is very reminiscent of Ford's manufacturing process. And I think that whole thing is about cutting costs of the actual manufacturing. So when we're looking at a vehicle, if the Model 3 costs $33,000 to make right now, this project might bring it down to $20,000 to $25,000 to produce, which is just going to be huge.
Or it may be the manufacturing of all things, like taking Ford's model and applying it, basically. Because he says that the machine that builds the machine, like, that is the product. He said it the whole time. And now I'm seeing it more and more that it is not only the factories, it is the systems that and the savings and everything, the vertical integration. But I think he's going through the line items of budgets, of household budgets. Where does the money go in America and in other countries? And going like, we can capture that, that car payment, we can capture that. The gasoline, we can capture that. The housing payment, we can capture that.
I mean, and then thinking about, you look at like an Apple ecosystem, it's awesome. They do very well with it. And like Elon is literally going to go to like the entire world and be like, yeah, that's now our ecosystem. Everything is like your livelihood and how you function, how you live, all of that. Sure, Apple can have their phone. That's awesome. But we'll take care of everything else.
Well, if you think about it, Apple's so successful, right? And Apple, basically, when you boil it down, does entertainment. If you think about what you need for life, they're not doing transportation. They're not doing shelter. They're not doing power. They're not creating fire. They're not Prometheus. Yeah,
they've got communications, and that's really about it.
And they're the gatekeeper for the App Store.
Oh, what'd you say, Ben?
And they're the gatekeeper for the App Store. And when you boil it all down, it's not much when you stack it up against what Tesla's doing, to me.
I did convert mine. So I had my Twitter that was bought through Apple. And then as soon as they went up to $11, I canceled that one and went through the online. I did it that way I paid for the full year in one shot, but yeah, I canceled and converted.
I have to look and see if they have that option on the web, because I always sign up on the web because I'm an Android peasant and proud of it.
So did you guys see that last month, retail investors actually exceeded what we saw during the meme stock craze, and $1.5 billion per day retail investors put into the market. So now when I'm looking at the dangerous places that we could be going in the economy, we always know that big money buys first. And big money bought at the end of the year last year. And then Who came in? All the FOMO buyers coming in like, oh, the stocks are going back up. And here comes retail dumping a ton of cash in there. And who loses the most money? Retail investors. So, again, this is just a little piece of the puzzle that I put in the back of my head as to what is going to be going on with the entire economy and market. And if we saw that much money from retail getting pumped in January, if the rug gets pulled on us, that's a lot of money that will come out of the market due to fear. And
fear and margin calls. And
yeah, God,
I
and I
hate to
hope
tell you
nobody
this,
jumps.
but it's a lot of options.
Yeah.
Options are what's driving the stock price. I'm
Yep.
not saying that it's not a valid price for the I understand. Listen, I love the company. I think it's the greatest company on earth. And I love Elon Musk. Like, praise him, However, retail did not all of a sudden make a ton of money in a couple of months and throw it into the stocks. Okay. They borrowed it.
Yep.
They're on margin.
Credit card debt is going up extremely high. There's a lot more people on credit now than there were before. We're going back to places where retail investors and consumers are being more indebted than they were before. And that's exactly how the transition goes. People go into debt, and the debt is owned by the banks. Then the banks end up taking that money back. And this is how banks get more money. Big money gets more money, and people end up with less money. And that's how that all plays out. And Tesla is one of the highest traded, I think the highest options traded stocks out there. So that's a lot of, that's why we see over 100% growth in a month, and we can see it come down significantly over another month as well. So, just brace yourselves. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm ready for it because I'm anticipating it happening, but just be cautious because it could happen, and just brace yourself. If it happens, just be ready for it.
Yeah. And, the problem with other people having margin is that it makes the stock volatile. It's a foundation built on sand. So, and unfortunately, like, this is a timeshare and we're all in the same building. So, like, we all share the same foundation. So if there's a ton of people that are in options and, it's a quadruple witching and we've got a bunch of options expiring and stuff, like, I mean, I'm about to look up the next quad witching and be like, when's the next really fun day we're going to have? Because I think, you're seeing more and more of these stocks that used to be more stable, like Google and Apple and stuff, becoming more volatile. And it's because of the options trading, because it's stocks that people would typically buy and hold because they want to be in that stock, but they don't have the money to buy and hold it, or they see, oh, I can make more money trading options. I can use less money and make more trading options. So I'm going to trade options. I think that's what's happening.
And then, of course, too, when you're in a sideways market or a down market, options are the way to go to actually make money, because you're not going to make money on a long-term hold. You're not going to make money really swing trading either. Options are the better way to go. And that's what ends up happening.
Sometimes you make money swing trading, though.
Yes, you can. And that's why this year could be a year to do that with the swing trading. It's just trying to time up and down is not easy. But I know Vin plays options himself, and, just getting those premiums by themselves, you're making money on the premiums, and if you do it right, you're going to take some money in.
Yeah.
And so that's beneficial.
In the last couple of years, I have definitely learned a lot from options. I've made lots of money. I've lost lots of money. And, it's just like investing in the stock market. And I think now I'm at the point where I know what to do and what not to do, and because I went into it, the way I use options is like, mostly I just want to make a consistent, steady cash flow. So I'm not really buying a lot of options. I like to sell them. And, just avoiding the high risk plays, because that's what happens. People go for the stocks like Tesla, and it's just so volatile. And then going back to earlier, with this crazy run up we've seen, I was going to say that the market has been kind to the contrarian investor over the last month. I mean, Tesla's up 100%, whether it's sustainable or not, which is crazy, because this is what happens, though. It's like when everyone thinks the sky is falling, it's a good time to go against the herd. Whether this will last, I don't know. But I'm looking here, and Tesla's PE right now is 52. So, this is a company that realistically can continue growing 50%. So this probably is a fair value where it sits right now. Now, obviously, that's all going to come down to the macro here and what happens and whatever PE the market wants to assign them. But there's a lot to it, and I think what it all comes down to, I would love to hear. I know, Jen, you know a lot about the housing market. Like, I think it all is going to come down to the housing market and where, what's going to happen there. If we have like a utter collapse, that's where things can get ugly, because at the end of the day, the only big layoffs we've seen so far is the tech companies. And Google, they can lay off 10,000 people. They're not the economy. The economy is the housing market. I mean, you just think about how many jobs go into the sale of a new house, the construction, the banks with the mortgages. Think about all the furniture, the TV, the electronics. Like, this is the U.S. economy is housing. So if those interest rates keep going up, I mean, they're down from their peaks, but if inflation is persistent, I don't know. I think that's the scenario where things could get ugly. But I don't know. I'm curious. What do you think? Are you seeing any signs with the housing market?
Well, so I'll tell you this. So the Fed is going to measure the way the Fed's going to measure. They're not going to change it. I see a lot of people, always floating like, oh, they should look at this and they should look at that. They should do a lot of things. They're not going to. So if they're going to continue to look at rents, that's not coming down. Rents don't come down. I've never lowered rent ever. And I was a landlord through the 2008 everything. I asked my mom, do you ever remember lowering rent? She's like, no, maybe stagnant, but never down. It just doesn't happen. I mean, housing prices will go down, but rents don't really move. So I don't know. Now I did see the prices move a little bit, but so I'm watching a particular beach out in Virginia Beach, and I just saw oceanfront just dip under 2 million. But we're talking like original little ranchers on stilts for 2 million. That same home 3 years ago was 1 million. So we're not there yet, but it's just finally coming under 2. There's a lot of them that are 5+. That's outrageous. So, but I see them trending in the right direction, but that's because payments are very high. And then also lending is starting to get tighter. So one of my friends who works in tech, he makes really great money, has fantastic credit, messaged me and he was like, why did my borrowing power go down 40,000? He goes, that doesn't make any sense. And I was like, yeah, because the lending criteria gets tighter. So typically what I advise people when my friends ask me is I'm like, pull lines of credit when you don't need them and when money is cheap and it's easy. So I pulled a HELOC a while ago when money was cheap and easy and I didn't need it. And so I have it in place. And I cleared all of our debt over the summer when I saw the rates were going up, because my HELOC rate was like 2.5%. So of course I was using that money. And then the rates were starting to go up and I was like, nope, we're paying that off. It's gone, right? So it's totally clear. They just sent me a letter that they were like, oh, your new rate is, I want to say it's 4.75, which is really cheap for money right now because I already had the line in place. So I have the privilege of cheap money. And you have to set up that stuff before this shit show happens. Yeah. But it's cyclical. You're going to have this for a while, then it's going to go back to cheap. Then it's going to go back to expensive because nobody can get their shit together at the Fed and the federal government, because the government runs in 4-year cycles and they don't care about anything outside of their cycle because they want to get reelected. And that's the long and the short of it.
That's what I was going to say too, is at the end of the day, that's all it comes down to. We're coming up to the election year here, and they'll crush inflation if they want to. They'll reduce the rates if they want. Well, the rates at least. Inflation may persist, but those rates, when it's time to get reelected, oh, you can bet they're coming down.
They can't though. I know you think that's going to happen, but here's the thing: if there's still inflation and the rates are still high, and you have wages high and employment is high, you cannot bring the rates down, because then you're going to get stagflation. Like, it's going to be very, very bad. We'll end up like Venezuela. Yeah. We're going to be taking wheelbarrows of money. It's going to be the Weimar Republic. That's the worst case scenario. So the Fed can't just drop the rates. It's not an option at a certain point.
This is the black swan stuff that in the back of my mind, I acknowledge there's a possibility, but I think this is where.
But have you seen the bankruptcy rate on January is up? So if you look at the bankruptcy rate, it's up. You look at the auto loan delinquencies, they are up. I mean, both significantly in January. Mm-hmm.
And what worries really not looking good. They keep changing how we're tracking these things. They're changing how CPI is measured, how PPI is measured. It went from being, a 2-year, comparing it, I think over like a 2-year cycle to just over the past year. So yeah, the numbers are going to look better. Eggs are still really expensive at the store though, and it's just not. So when they talk about the CPI going down, inflation's not going down. I mean, everything is still very expensive, and yeah, I think it's.
And that's why with CPI, I pay attention to the month over month more so than the year over year because that's more relevant. And then when they went through and they just adjusted and revised all the numbers for last year, I'm like, could you imagine how the market would have reacted at that time if they actually came out with those true numbers? And now when we get to the end of this year, if you look at a year over year number, because they adjusted those numbers up at the end of this year. So now they're going to look even better at the end of this year because we're comparing to a higher number. So I'm like, I don't know. That's why I like to go month to month. And that's why when we saw that high month over month number for CPI, I'm like, oh, that's not going in the right direction. That is not disinflation at all. And I remember Jen had mentioned the other day that, I was thinking a 25 basis point hike in March until we saw PPI. Now maybe it's 50 or, you just said 75. That to me is a lot, but 50 is back on the table now, I think. And I don't know if that's priced in yet.
I don't think it is priced in. I think the market priced in one more 25 basis point hike. And I noticed that a lot in comments on Twitter. People are like, they're only going to do one more hike and then they're going to cut rates at the end of the year. And I'm like, have you listened to Powell's speeches? Because he said there were no rate cuts this year, but no one's buying it. No one wants to believe the Fed because they cried wolf one too many times. That's the problem.
Yeah. And everybody thinks, and because they come out with the same message every time, but they just say it differently every time. So if you listen, he hasn't changed. They've actually, if anything, the adjusted consensus rate that they wanted to get to has gone up over the last year. It started, I think, 4.6%. Now it's at 5.1%. And they're going to redo that in March. So that might go up even more now that we've got these higher numbers that are coming out and stickier inflation. So we probably, I thought, judging by the numbers that we had originally gotten, we would see a pivot maybe by the end of this year. But, even Jerome Powell was saying it's not going to happen until 2024. At this point, might not happen until Q2 or Q3 of 2024 that we see the first rates come down. And maybe that'll be it right
too.
Timing for the election.
Even if they only do one more hike, is anyone pricing in what if the rates just stay there? They keep them at 5% or whatever we end up at for a year, for 2 years, or what is the economy going to look like after a year of having the rates at that level?
Well, and that's the plan. Jerome Powell even said that, basically they're going to leave them at the high rate. So if it's going to be 5 to 5.25, they're going to leave it that for a year. A year we will be sitting at those rates at that level. And then, Chamath came out and said that he thinks they should keep the rates high for 5 to 6 or even 7 years, just to squeeze the liquidity out of the market that's in there, whether that stays up that high that long. But the rate drop plan goes all the way through 2026 at this point. So it's not like we're going to get down to that 2 to 2.5% rate for the interest rates anytime soon. It's going to be years before we get back down to that.
Yeah, and where it gets really worrisome is, we're all thinking about the rates from our perspective, our borrowing ability. So borrowing to buy homes, start businesses, maybe cars and credit cards. What we're not thinking about is the BBB rated business that is borrowing and has to refinance their debt every year, every other year, and because they're on variable interest rates. There's a lot of variable interest loans out there. Actually, our national debt is on a variable interest rate and it has to be refinanced. So that is where it gets really froggy.
Yeah. And then you look at, we haven't even really seen many zombie companies going out yet. Like there's a lot that needs to happen. Like if you look back at every recession that we've gotten, the 2008, 2009 timeframe, every 10 years, it's a good thing. This is actually a good thing to happen in the market. You need to flush out these zombie companies that are just, sucking the life out of the economy. They shouldn't be here. They're taking money that really doesn't need to be there. It's like that. I keep going back to that meme with the raccoon that tries to wash his cotton candy and you put it in the water and it's gone. Like that's zombie companies. And if you guys don't know, a zombie company is a company that doesn't even have enough money coming in to pay the interest on their debt. So that's a zombie company.
That's going to be the United States. Yes. We're going to be a zombie company.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, we're just going to keep raising the ceiling and who cares? We're just going to keep doing that. But that's what ends up happening. And you need to flush a lot of these companies out. And it does stink because there's a lot of smaller businesses that are really trying to come up and grow themselves, and they're just started at a tough time. And it's going to be
There
rough
are
for them.
corporations that
Oh,
are
yeah.
triple B rated, that are double B rated, that are single B rated junk bonds that have to be refinanced. They're not even small businesses. They're whole corporations that are going to have to lay off their entire workforce. It's going to be major. That's what
Oh,
people
yeah.
aren't realizing, is that all of that debt needs to be refinanced, and we all forgot about it
Yeah. And
because we
that's the
wanted
thing,
our
like,
stimmy checks.
and when people are looking at, what is going to cause this market to come down, everybody's like, what is going to do it? Everything seems like it's going in the right direction now. And I'm like, but all you need is that one domino to start toppling. And once that first one goes, everything goes with it. Like Vince said, we've seen the tech layoffs. That's not huge, but that's less people working. So if you have less people working, that's less people out there taking loans for personal stuff. That goes into bigger companies that then take other loans for other things as well. So we still have money moving in the market right now, but that will eventually slow down. You get their interest rates still going up. That's what the Fed needs to do, is get to that point where people stop spending. And they just haven't gotten there yet because they keep pushing the credit limits higher. And somebody had mentioned earlier that, savings are also still going up, which is nice. But when you have debt still going up, that's expensive debt. Think about the rates right now. I mean, credit cards, what are the credit card rates at now? Like 30%? It's madness.
Like, I have no idea. I have no credit card debt.
Same here.
But
And that's all I've heard.
I mean,
Recently was 30%.
Work on eliminating your credit card debt, everybody. Make a plan. But
yes, get rid of it.
it's very high. I mean, that would be terrible to have 30% interest debt. I would probably prioritize that.
Oh, yeah. And then you think about the businesses, like Jen said, when you've got businesses that are borrowing money and having to refinance every year, they're refinancing at a higher rate. That means that they need to bring in more money to pay off that extra debt, because now it's way more expensive. If you've got a 6% loan, you borrow $100,000, you now have to pay $6,000 extra on that. And
they're not borrowing at 6%. Try 12, 14.
Right. Yeah. So you go to those higher levels, and it's like, that's a lot of extra money. So if you're just trying to scrape by basically paycheck to paycheck as a company, and you can't even afford that interest, you kicking that can down the road, hoping that at some point you're going to be able to build your business up. And if you don't, you got to close the doors.
And U.S. credit card
what
debt
it's going
is
to
at
do
a
to
record
equities,
high.
because, Oh, go ahead, Ben. What'd you say?
U.S. credit card debt's at a record high. Household debt hit a record, I believe, almost 17 trillion last quarter. I mean, yeah, everyone's loaded up on their credit cards. So that does not end well if rates keep going up and staying where they are.
Yep. And eventually they're going to get maxed out.
Well, and most Americans do not have like an emergency fund. They can't handle like a $500 emergency.
Yeah. That's
scary. Very scary, and I'm not criticizing anybody, because people get into hard positions. They operate with the knowledge that they have access to. So I'm not faulting anyone. I would say, like, find mentors, search out the knowledge, and, keep improving as much as you can. And that's why we make these videos and everything, is to help educate people so that they can make a better life for themselves. But it's very scary, honestly, because it's going to take one event to really wreck a lot of people. And then it's going to take a second event to take the next tier out, honestly. And it's going to be whole companies. And so with equities, like, what's going to happen with equities when real estate's really super cheap? Because I'll tell you what, I'd probably sell my whole portfolio if I could get a beach house for a third the price. You're going to snatch that up.
Oh, yeah.
What about when bonds are paying 8%? Your risk-free rate is so high. Fuck it,
Yeah.
Even where we are already, I mean, CDs are getting close to 5%. Do you take on the risk to, the S&P historically? Maybe you get 8, maybe 10% in a good year on average. Do you want to take on the risk, or just get the 5% guarantee?
That's what I'm doing
as the rate continues going up. And that's the way I've been looking at it too. Just the market in general is like, as long as that's the case, and as rates are still increasing, where are people going to put their money? Or, like you said, real estate, if it goes down. But guaranteed 5%, risky 7%. It kind of becomes a no-brainer.
Right. And
Yeah, I mean, you might as well be in bonds or in CDs, and then if real estate tanks, you have like 3 months to close. So do 6 month CDs or something. Do something that has like a small penalty to break, that it would be worth it if you're going in for a larger deal. Or you can float the down payment. If you have your credit cards that are empty because you've paid off all of your debt. A lot of times they will offer you balance transfer checks, and a lot of times you can write those checks to yourself, because I've done it a million times. I've called those companies and been like, can I write this check to myself? They were like, yes, you can. Thank you. Like, very open about it. And I bought property with those checks. So, there's a lot of ways to kind of float some debt at a really cheap rate, so you don't have to pay those penalties. You have to do a little math and figure out which way does it work best for you. But there's ways to do it where it works out. So I think, like, what the message that I'm hearing from Vinny and that I'm trying to say is figure out how to make money in the bear market.
Yeah. And I mean, right now, there's a lot of CDs out there. I've got 5 right now. They're rolling basically every 2 weeks. One of them matures, and it's 4 to 4.5% on 1 month CDs right now. So, just because I don't know when the market's going to come down. So I want to be ready for it. And that means to me that every 2 weeks, I'm going to have $5,000 available, and it's just constantly making me 4 to 4.5%. And if the Fed goes up with rates more in March, they're just going to go up even higher. So the other reason I did it on the 1 month is because I'm anticipating another rate hike, so I can just roll that into another CD at a higher percent.
That's smart.
Yeah, I've been doing the same thing, and I learned from the mistake of, I went into 2022, I was pretty much fully deployed, in long stocks, mostly Tesla. We know how that went. So going into this year, I made sure I'm sitting around 25% of my portfolios in cash right now. So let's go, baby. Whatever comes, like, I'm ready this time. So that's kind of the way I've been playing it, just cautiously averaging in, but also kind of averaging into my cash position as well.
Oh yeah. Let's go to investment
CDs,
day here.
1 month CDs. Yeah.
So Jen, you are going to investment day, right?
Yes.
Now,
I'm very excited.
Have you gotten in?
Well, I haven't gotten an invite yet, but the original invites, they have like an RSVP date of the 24th, and the event is on the 1st. So I have a feeling they're going to see how many people RSVP, and then how many spots they have available. And, I do know people that have shown up day of and gotten in. So
nice. And so
I don't know.
And so Jen and I are going to try to work this out. Don't know how it's going to work, as I don't know what's going on with the event. I don't know what time it's starting. I do have to work that day. I'm going to try to get out early to at least jump on a live stream. And if we can work it out, Jen's going to be my boots on the ground over there. She's going to be jumping in time to time to give us some feed onto what's going on.
Yes.
So we will keep you guys posted on that. And
I will at least be at the watch event at the Clyde Bar. I will definitely be there even if I'm lucky enough to get into the factory, into the main event. I'll still be there at the after party. So I'm definitely going to the Clyde Bar, and I'll be able to live stream from there. Huh?
You got to dance with Sandy.
Oh, is Sandy? Oh yeah, Sandy is going to be there. We'll see. Maybe, I don't know if he will dance with me. We'll see.
Oh, he will. He's dancing with everybody. Sandy's like such a fun dude at the bar there. He's going to be great.
Awesome. I'm so excited to meet everybody.
Yeah, so I'll have you there, and I'm going to see if Brian will do it too, and we'll have a couple of you guys down there to give me some live feed action that's going on. So I'm so jealous I can't make it, but that's all right. It's almost
I know, and it is kind of shaping up to sound like it's going to be a big deal. No one really knew what Investor Day was going to be, and I had to miss I didn't have to miss the cyber rodeo. I decided I didn't get a ticket, so I'm not going to go, And then I saw the fun everybody had at all the other events that were thrown by the, supporter groups and stuff. And I was like, damn, that looked really fun. And so I really regretted not going. And I was like, oh, I'm going to the next one.
Oh yeah. And so for me, like, I look at it, and just going to my races is a great time. Even when I didn't race, hanging out with all the people was awesome. As a Beachbody coach, we have events all the time. Going to those events is absolutely amazing. And I have no doubt it's the exact same atmosphere and feeling going to one of these things. So for me, when they do the Cybertruck delivery event, I'm totally going to that one because it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be just a wild time. Such good people. And I haven't even met any of you in person yet. And I want to meet all of you. That's going to be the good time.
And Ben, you're not going?
No, I'm not. Is it in Austin?
Yeah.
It is.
One of these, I'll definitely make it down there. Maybe that could be that business trip right off.
Yes.
There you go.
And that absolutely is. So like I said, I did San Diego. So obviously going to Austin specifically for this would definitely be a write-off.
Hmm.
But one of the things I have to learn from doing it as a Beachbody coach was I put the cart before the horse. So I did all these things and wrote it all off, but I didn't make enough money with the business to compensate for it. So that was a mistake that I learned from over there. So now I just make sure I've got the funds coming in to be able to cover it, because you don't know, like ad revenue right now for YouTube is just total trash. Because that's another signal for me about the macro environment is ad revenue is the worst I have ever seen it. And
Yeah, I
that's
feel like
the
it
first
tends
thing
to be
that goes.
bad the first couple months. Like, so it'll be interesting. Maybe I feel like January and February are always the lowest. But if March and April, if it's still bad, because I noticed that as well. If it's still bad, Google and Facebook kind of are a good indicator, and that would probably be a sign.
Yeah. So when I look at it, because I was monetized last year, the first quarter is always bad because you've come out of the holiday season, so they don't want to advertise. But this February is actually worse than last February for me, so that's not good.
So are you making a lower rate because you're definitely getting more views, right? So the rate's just lower.
Everything is down. Views are down. Subscriber growth is down. Revenue is down. All of it, and it's across the board from pretty much everybody I have seen. Looking at like all the normal content creators that are out there, seems like everything is just down. So it's not. They're just not pushing and promoting it much at all because I don't think they want to pay it out. Just because they're protecting themselves as well.
So now, who do we know that is going to the actual event at Tesla? Because I know Amy has an invite, and then
really,
I don't know who else has an invite.
I don't know anybody personally at all. I know Brian's been trying to get one. He has struck out every single time that he's tried to get into one. I don't even know if Omar got one yet. I know he's been asking for one. Sawyer and Rob usually get some like last minute they get in there. So I don't know about them. Yeah, I don't know if you guys in the comments know anybody who's going. What's going on, Sean?
Hey, Sean.
I don't know if you guys know, if anybody in the comments know who's going, let us know. And maybe we can actually get connected with somebody who's actually at the event. Jay Lizard, what is the shocking news we'll get out of investment day?
I honestly think it's that they're going to 3D print houses. I think that like the whole boxable thing Elon's been thinking about. And, I don't know if everybody knows this, but Elon does a camping trip with his kids every year for a week. Like for a week, he just like deuces out and goes camping with the boys. So I think like he is thinking with the truck and everything, probably was thinking about camping, RVs, I mean, the man never stops thinking. I can definitely see his wheels turning, and then with him having to like solve his housing issue and then seeing what is going on with housing in Austin and then this 3D printing, this company that's in Austin, 3D printing houses, they're gorgeous. They're so cool. They're not crappy. So I think that's going to be the big shocker and everybody's gonna be like, what the F? Also, I think he's going to be like, we're deploying almost all the money but not all at once. How am I going to explain this? He's going to have a plan for all the money because they're going to be doing all of these factories. But you don't build a factory overnight. It takes like 3 years to like build and ramp.
Right.
So he'll have like an if then, like if like a best case scenario, like, oh, hey, everything works according to plan. Yay, we have like $40 billion. This is what it's going to look like. And like a worst case scenario, like this was a really shitty depression. However, we're the only car company left on Earth. And so that's also an advantage. And here's what that looks like. So no matter what, we win and everybody's really rich. I think we're going to hear that speech too.
Now, my thought about the housing thing, and I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I think that's a great idea, but I'm just wondering if something like that would fly over like Optimus and people would be like, yeah, whatever, and wouldn't truly believe it just because it's so far beyond. It's so Elon. It's totally.
I don't think it's that far beyond though. I think Optimus is more unbelievable. But if you watch the 3D house printing video and you see these houses, you're like, I could see that. I could totally see that. Plus, in other countries, they do a lot of concrete construction. Like our house in Germany was concrete. And here's the thing. So the issue with us going all electric primarily is the need, like our needs, if everybody went all electric right away, would be too high. And one of the biggest draws is our HVACs, like the heating and cooling. It's just too high of a need. Well, part of the reason it's too high of a need is because our houses are really inefficient. They're super, super inefficient. But concrete houses are very efficient. Like we almost never had to use our HVAC in Germany. I mean, except for in the winter, of course. Like we had to use heating oil because it's cold. It was like living on the Canadian Minnesotan border where we were in southern Germany. It's the same latitude. But like here in Virginia, I could probably have a concrete house and almost never have to use an HVAC, really, not much, because it would be more efficient. So I think his solving for energy, part of it is not only making more energy, like making more solar panels, making more storage, but also like shrinking our demand with efficiency.
That's true, because that's a big piece of it too. You think about, when you're trying to get rid of debt, the first thing you do is cut expenses, and that's the same premise. And then, going back to the scaling to, extreme size, Jerry here, I don't know if you guys saw it, the rumors that Tesla might be buying up Sigma Lithium, which is hilarious because the first thing I thought was Ligma. And it goes perfectly along with everything that's been going on. But so knowing that they're going to be refining lithium, them going in there and buying up a lithium mining company would make sense. They can mine it, refine it, and then they're now in control of that one bottleneck that was slowing them down in the future.
Only a $4 billion market cap on that one. So there's a good use of their cash, better than buybacks, yeah. I'd say.
I would say that purchasing Comstock Mining would be a better play because it's way cheaper. I mean, Comstock Mining, the last I checked, their market cap was like 40 billion. I think it's less. I think it's like 30 billion now, right? Million, 30 million. It's super cheap. Like Ross Gerber could buy. Ross Gerber, go buy that. It's good. But anyway, so
you want to get on the board, go buy it.
I don't know. It's pretty sweet. So hear me out now. So Comstock Mining, I've talked about it before, but and I do not hold any Comstock Mining currently. I sold everything to, save my Tesla stock because it was tanking. We were all there. We all know what happened. But anyway, so I digress. Comstock Mining. They had the oldest mining claim in America, I think, the Comstock gold and silver mines, right? They sold them off. They converted the entire company. So they have not been making a profit for years. They haven't been doing anything for years. Really, they've been converting the company. Well, what are they doing now? They're doing two things. One, they're making biofuels. And they're making biofuels a different way. They're making it with kind of waste products. So it's like stuff that we would throw out anyways, but they have made a proprietary system to make biofuels. Cool, that's awesome, whatever. But the other thing, which is amazing, is they are going to be recycling lithium-ion batteries and, the car batteries or whatever. And they got their permits approved and everything. But the very, very exciting part is they have a patent and it's approved and everything. And they've shown proof of concept that they can recapture the lithium when they're recycling batteries. That was the only thing that you could not do before, which is why the car batteries were like 94% recyclable and not 100% recyclable, because you couldn't recapture the lithium. And that's why lithium was kind of a limiting factor. So yeah, so buy them, take their patent. It's 30 million. Let's go buy them.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. See you later, Brandon. Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, I mean, that would make sense too. So, I mean, and again, this was just a rumor that came out, like one of those things that are, dang, I wish I had it. And realistically, lithium plays, I don't think you can go wrong. Like Elon had said himself, like if you do lithium, just do it, because there's so much need and demand for lithium right now. And it takes so many people so long to get up and running. So if they already have the permits and regulations passed to make it happen, that's great, because other companies, like somehow Elon is doing it in 2 years. But most places are taking like 8 to 10 years to actually get this up and running. So yeah,
the permitting is really difficult. And Comstock went over a lot of why they had an advantage for permitting. And part of it was because they already had the facilities in place, because they had all this real estate from the mining facilities that they own in Nevada. And they're also located right where Giga Nevada is, like that area, Giga Nevada. I think there's a Samsung. Is it Samsung that's out there that's making batteries?
Or
Someone's making
Panasonic.
batteries.
I think it's Panasonic.
Panasonic. Okay, there we go. But and yeah, so that whole, they're in like that mix. So it's also a good spot. I mean, I don't know. I had it as a acquisition play, and I thought they were going to do great. What I forgot is we just don't have that many batteries yet to recycle, and Tesla gets their batteries to recycle when there is a Tesla battery, typically, you know. So, like, what batteries is Comstock Mining recycling? There's no batteries yet. It's early.
I'm wondering if Redwood Materials would buy up Comstock then. And then I'm thinking, now this is my long-term thesis. 2025 or 2026, Tesla's going to buy Redwood Materials. JB Straubel comes in, becomes a new CEO, and Elon steps down.
I think that was the plan all along.
Yep. I have a feeling that's what's going to happen. And my thought is, because thinking about the timing of when JB left to start up Redwood Materials, Tesla was not profitable. They did not have the money to be able to start up a company like Redwood Materials. So by JB stepping away and doing this, he can now create this whole entire business, build that whole thing up on his own. Mm-hmm. And now that Tesla has the money to do it, they can come in there, scoop it up and buy it. They're all back together, happy family again.
The reunion.
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe Elon will announce that they're acquiring Redwood. I mean, it's possible that because we've seen them together recently too, haven't we? We've seen JB was at AI Day, wasn't he?
Yeah, and JB actually had an interview the other day and said, they right now don't have any contracts with Tesla, but he's still friends with Elon. They still chat all the time. So, I mean, they have a good relationship still. There's nothing that's changed on that front other than they're just not actual coworkers anymore. So that whole relationship is still strong, still good. And I know Redwood is opening up a factory down in South Carolina. So they're expanding. Well, like you said, their batteries, and people are like, well, where are they getting their batteries from? Redwood can recycle all batteries. It's not just Tesla. Like, obviously, like I said, Tesla's getting their own batteries back, but Redwood's getting all the other batteries. So even phone batteries, they can recycle 98 to 99% of that phone battery. And that's still all the minerals. It's not like, you have to remember, it's not like they're taking the battery out and they're going to recycle this battery as the form factor it is. They break it down, take all the minerals, all the different stuff that they need out of it, and create whatever they need for it in the future and recycle that as a mineral play. So obviously, as we go down the road, eventually we get 30, 40 years down the road, we might not even ever have to mine for this stuff anymore because they have so much out there.
Well, that's the idea, I think. That's the idea, is mine once, used forever. And so when people want to make the argument like, oh, well, those electric cars aren't as eco-friendly as you think, the mining and this, that, and the other, I'm like, oh, but you only have to mine it once.
Yeah.
You know?
And then people, once it's done, it's there. I don't think
people realize that.
Yeah, and that's why people are like, you've got to look, like Elon obviously looks way down the road. He's looking past his own death. What is going to be going on with humanity after I'm gone? What ball can I get rolling? And this is just it. He's going to have this ball rolling where we're going to have a self-sustainable planet where we're not going to be mining anymore because we're just reusing everything that we've already mined and keep on doing that over and over again. You've got cars that are going to be running 1 million miles. I mean, it's going to be a whole different world when we're looking 30, 40, 50 years down the road. Think about going back 50 years from where we are now. There wasn't even internet. I mean, I
remember when there wasn't internet.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up with no internet. I grew up with a typewriter. Like, that's how I did papers in school. And then we had, for 2 years, our word processor. That was awesome.
I grew up on dial-up.
Yep.
Yeah. I didn't have internet.
I know. Finn looks like a child. Like, he grew up on dial-up, and he's like, what are you, late 20s? How old are you?
Yeah, only 90s kids remember. 26.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. I was like, you can't, I mean, like, you can only be so old, and exactly. So it's just crazy how fast everything changes. And speaking of changes, I know you mentioned the university. Everybody, especially me, I've been like, when are we getting this university from Elon? When are we getting some tits, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to happen because Elon made some comments about education. If you saw his interview, the most recent interview he had, I want to say, was it the one at the World finance. It might have been that one, or there was one before it. I'm not sure. But anyways, he was asked about education and does it really take 12 years? And he was like, oh, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. Maybe you could do it in 10. And then they said, well, do you need 4 years of university? And he was like, no. So I think what he's thinking is we can probably just do all of the training you need, like in one. Like, I think he's thinking, like, why do we send people, why do we do this secondary school? Like, why do we decide, like, oh, you know what, we're just going to stop doing the school thing that we've been doing. And now for the last bit, you're just going to get fucked. I mean, why do we do that? That doesn't make any sense.
But Jen, they won't do it as a college. He'll do it as a tech school, like a high school. So right out of middle school.
I think it's just going to be part of high school. So I think he might make a concept school for this town because he has one. He has Ad Astra that his kids go to. Yep. You know, and so maybe he makes a concept school that's like a little larger, that's for his company town. Now that would be a big advantage. Like I could see people wanting to work at Tesla for that education, because people will move for their kids for good schools. Oh yeah. Period. Yeah. So if you're going to get like an Elon Musk level education for your kids, you're going to take that job. Oh yeah, if you're gonna free Montessori, I want to say Montessori tuition by us is $17,000 a year right now. If you're gonna get like that level and better as a company perk, you're taking the job. So how many engineers do you need? Because you just got all of them. I don't know.
Oh, exactly, and that was my whole thought when he mentioned it the first time. Is they vertically integrate everything. What's the most important thing is their talent. And they can vertically integrate their talent by doing this. They put that school up down near Austin. That's going to be the home base. Hey, you're already living here. By the way, we've got a job for you when you get out of school. So here you go. You don't need to move. You just go work down the road at Tesla. It's perfect.
Yeah. And he did mention that that is now the limiting factor, I believe, is the talent, having enough engineers, having good workforce. And he has mentioned that there's not enough like training. There's not enough people in STEM. And who got me thinking a little more, like the light bulb moment for that last couple statements was Jason DeBolt was talking about, well, he had made a tweet like, what would you change in education? You know, if you were making, I think he was talking about making a hardcore school for boys and girls or something like that. And I was like, that's a really great thought exercise. So I sat and I thought about it, and I read everybody's responses and stuff. But I really liked that, and I was thinking about what Elon would. You know, I'm always like, what would Elon say? And,
Optimus has entered the room.
Yeah, there you go. It was like a record time this time.
That was a good run, though. Yeah,
it took an hour and 20 minutes before it kicked in this time.
It's because I'm right.
The conspiracy's coming out.
They're going to teach them first principles thinking from a young age, and just an assembly line of great engineers just coming off, you know, ready to deploy them.
Well, exactly. I mean, you think about the fact that basically most of the stuff you learn in high school is worthless, because unless it's specifically for the career you're going into, you don't need any of it at all. I mean, thinking about the stuff that I hear my kid learning, Karav, who's on here, is the same age as my son. You know, the stuff he's learning is like stuff that nobody's going to use. And you can certainly learn by the time you're 11, 12 years old, what you're good at and what you can definitely be doing with your life going forward. And that's what you can utilize high school for. And if Elon's going to create this whole entire community to be able to do this and say, hey, you're 11, 12 years old. We realize that you're good talent. We realize that you're going to be a great engineer or whatever, you know, you're going to school for. Come on down here. We can now take that next 4 years and not waste it at basic public school, because most of the stuff you learn is going to be wasted. You can now learn something great here and really take you on and save you 4 years of your life to do this. You're not going to have to spend money to go to college, because we can put you right in the workforce right after high school.
Well, what they're going to run up again. Am I still a robot? Son of a bitch.
I thought you were getting a new studio stuff. What's going on?
Well, Jacob is away, as you know, and I think I need both of our phones to get a new phone. So I don't know. I think I need, because we're going to switch carriers, because the carrier that we currently have doesn't get reception at our house, and it's a whole thing. It's because we have these huge, like 100-foot trees, and they're pretty, but they're not cell phone friendly. So regardless, he needs to come back from where he is so we can go to the cell phone store and get a different carrier.
Well, Jake is out there right now sending out UFOs for the U.S. to shoot down, okay?
He's doing a lot of saunas. He's doing like a sauna.
That's what he's
You
telling
all are
you.
paying for a lot of sauna trips for some
That
people for a couple weeks.
that's what his superior officer told him to tell you.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I'm like, okay, whatever, But yeah, so I know I need new stuff. But oh shit, I lost my train of thought. It derailed.
Yeah, speaking of.
You
And
guys
then, so FSD Beta in Seattle, I was lucky I had a good high school. I loved critical thinking, physics, math, and geography. And I think there is some benefit you can learn. And obviously it goes teacher to teacher personally. I think it's the teachers that make the school and the teachers that make the learning. Absolutely. Teachers are woefully underpaid in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
Then it comes down to the culture of the school itself and the school system. There's a lot of factors that go into it. And I loved the learning of stuff. And nowadays, though, like Elon said himself, if you want to learn something new, you can go into YouTube and learn it in a month, for the most part.
I remember what it is.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm over 40. You just got to get it out. Okay, so they have to, what they're going to run up against is they're going to have to figure out how to get their program like approved and certified by their like state council of higher education so that it is a degree granting program. So if he can make like a school program that goes from like, preschool all the way till university to like master's or a PhD. I mean, because they can grant those. I mean, I've done that. So when I was at the university I worked at, we were working on getting approved for bachelor's and master's degree granting programs. And so I know what that looks like. And it is ridiculous. You actually do have to pay lobbyists to do that. And you have to pay consultants a lot of money. Like hundreds of thousands of dollars is how much it costs. Now, it's very easy for Elon, but I'm just putting it into perspective that it's a pretty interesting undertaking. But that's, what it would take is just getting it approved, which really just takes money and the right people.
Yeah.
So it's totally doable. Like he can make a private school, he can set up a whole program, and it can be a degree granting program. So then if you're told like, hey, if you take this job at Tesla, your kids get to go to the school and then they can test, out of this program or whatever. And at the end, they'll be granted like these we have these degree programs and everything. It'll save you all this money because what are the biggest budget line items? I swear to God, he's looking at a household budget. He's going education, housing, food, just wait, because food's going to be next. But yeah, I mean, with $8 eggs.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's true, too. And if you go back to, let's go, bring it right back to Project Highland, you go back to the Industrial Revolution when this all happened, you grew up and, hey, mom and dad both worked for Ford. I then went to school and I then went to work for Ford, and that's just, they had that generational turnover with people working for the same company. And if Elon is going to create that situation, he can easily get that. And now you've got generational talent turning over and over and over again.
We still do it. Because how many people do you know do what their parents did?
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. And so I think this can definitely be something that he is creating for them. So it'd be very interesting to hear. And maybe that is something they mentioned at Investor Day.
Yeah, I mean, we may not hear it at Investor Day. We might, but I think it's more likely than tits, or maybe that is tits.
Yeah, I think he's probably thinking about the light bulb moments that Elon has had, like when he realized that in order to solve FSD, they basically needed to create AGI. And in that moment, he realized, well, AGI is what we need for humanoid robots. Bam, let's get Optimus up and running. So as soon as he realizes what they need to do to create the next step and realize what the full capacity is of what that means, they're just going to take it to the next level.
Yeah.
There you go. We're going to end on this. Nothing like getting a pound of crap beef for the same price as eggs. So true. So true.
So sad.
Oh, gosh. All right. Well, it's been an hour and a half, folks. Thank you guys so much for being on. This has been awesome. Very much looking forward to Investor Day coming up soon. And we will see you guys later.